Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Never Mind the Buy Box. My name is Natalie Cromie, and I am the Content Director here at the Secret Wealth Project. And this evening, I am joined by fellow Amazon seller, Terry Clapson. Good evening, Terry. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks, Natalie. How are you doing?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Yeah, it's been, we were just talking beforehand. It's like super hot day. We're both a bit kind of hot and bothered, by the weather that's going on. But do you know what? We wouldn't be true Brits unless we were moaning about it being too hot or moaning about it when it's too cold.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Good news is obviously that there is a heat wave coming. So, generally, depending on what you're selling on Amazon, that could be a good thing. But I'm just going to wait for a few people to jump on. Ruth's first again this evening. She definitely gets the award for the most enthusiastic. She's always on here first. So good to see you, Ruth. Just waiting for a few people to come on. Guys, can you let me know in the comments that you can see and hear us okay? Oh, hang on a sec. Just turn that down. Jane's joined us. Kellyanne Smith has joined us as well, but no one has commented. So no. You just have to turn the volume down if you're going to watch it for the comments there as well. First one to comment wins a prize. No, I mean, you won't win a prize, but you just get a good shout out. Let us know in the comments, guys. There we go. I've got a comment, but I don't know who it's from. It's Harminder. Good evening. Good shout out for you. Here we go. I think it's just a little bit delayed tonight. Jane says hi. Simon says evening. First Jed's with us as well. Look, we got getting great turnout tonight, which is great. Do you know what? I think if you guys haven't discovered it already, I'm seeing it being posted in the group. Terry and I were just talking about it beforehand, but it looks like those pesky restock limits have struck again. We did think that it was going to be more kind of along the lines with the IPI score, that it was going to be done, pretty much on a Monday. But it looks like the curse of the restock limits can literally strike at any point. Because I think you said, Terry, that you lost a few yesterday.
Yeah, we monitor it on a daily basis. So it comes up in one of my reports. One of my VAs sent me a report to keep a track of things. And so I can see they dropped by about 200 or 300 yesterday. But before they had gone up about 200 or 300 for about a week or something. So
it's such a changeable figure. I do still stand by the fact that it's going to be something that is going to be a very fluid kind of movement. It's going to be up, it's going to be down. But one thing that I'm absolutely got to say to everyone tonight, fair warning, please heed my warning. I did say this a couple of weeks ago, that I think a lot of people thought, great, they've all gone down again. I can pile as much stock into Amazon as possible. And, Amazon's just going to let me carry on. No, Amazon is full, guys. They're full. The reason they're doing this, if you continue to just send stock in and fill up your utilization, I absolutely guarantee you, I'm in real head teacher mode tonight. I absolutely guarantee you that you will have a rubbish Q4 because you will not be able to send goods in if you continue not to learn how to understand what Amazon want. And what Amazon want is for people to manage their inventory responsibly. That's what they want. And again, I don't know if you've got any extra thoughts to add to that, Terry, because I know we're all still scratching our heads a little bit and it's causing massive frustration for a lot of sellers, which I totally get.
Yeah, well, for me, I've got a bit of a mix really going on because I do a little bit of OA, normal sort of OA, but I try to avoid competition as well. So if I can, then I will be on listings by myself, or I create listings for myself. Not quite unique bundles, but on the path to that kind of end goal. So yeah. I think Amazon have been quite kind to me, as we were talking about before. That my restock limit is actually quite high comparative to some of the other sellers. So I think they've looked at what I do quite favourably compared to like standard OA or RA.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have a little bit of a theory relating to this, and I shared it with the elite sellers, and I've shared it a couple of times. I think I probably talked about it last week. The restock limits is such a hot topic at the moment. I don't know any YouTuber, any influencer, any Amazon guru that's not talking about it at the moment, because it's still huge. I mean, a lot of people thought it was going to be sorted, but obviously it's got, like I said, it's just going to be something that's going to be continually moving, continually having to be monitored. But I do believe that the people that are probably going to feel this the most, outside of the private labelers who have just been using Amazon as a glorified storage facility, is going to be the people with arbitrage. Because at the end of the day, a lot of sellers, and this isn't disrespectfully, I hope no one takes this disrespectfully, because we all do this in this game, is spray and pray isn't going to work anymore. It's going to have to be lots of very, very reserved, checking out your due diligence, making sure everything stacks up. And, sell-through rate is going to be incredibly important, but also replenishment is going to be really important as well. And I do believe, especially for faster moving ASINs, if you are sharing the stock levels with 20, 30 other sellers, and you are only sending in, say, 10, 15 products of a product that is selling 500 times a month, you're not doing what Amazon wants, which is keeping that particular ASIN in stock. Yes, I don't know how much they do take other sellers into account, but at the end of the day, everything's worked out on individual metrics. So the way that I see it is they will see that as you are not understanding that particular, not understanding and fulfilling what Amazon wants, which is sending the goods in for that fast moving stock in order to keep it fulfilled, keep it in stock, keep it moving, keep those FBA 15.3% fees coming in. So I think that there's going to have to be a lot of trial and error over the next few weeks for a lot of people, because at the end of the day, this is going to continue to go up and go down. And one of the things with Amazon, one of the things I think we can all agree on is Amazon is about feeding the beast. It's about a continual flow of sending goods in. It's that rinse and repeat cycle. You sell something, you send it, you buy something, you prep it, you send it in, you sell it. Rinse and repeat. It's that continual cycle of buy, prep, sell, repeat. And if you are constantly stuttering on the process of that, then what's going to happen is all things are going to be taken into account, and they're going to restrict the people that don't get it right for Q4, which sucks pretty much, unfortunately. So, guys, little and often, definitely taking into account what Amazon wants, which is, not piling as much stocking as possible. It's going to pretty much pay Amazon off at the moment if you're doing that, because the reason they're doing this is because the warehouses are full. So, that's what we've got to do at the moment.
Yeah, well, the nature of that as well, though, Natalie, is that sometimes when stock becomes available, the tendency of the seller is just to buy as much as they possibly can and then just send it in. So really what you're saying is that maybe keeping hold of some stock might be an idea, and then sort of pacing yourself as you send it in. So
yeah,
am I reading it right?
Absolutely. In particular, in the world of private label, which obviously I'm being exposed to more and more now because we are selling through private label in the US market. And, it's a market that I've always been aware of, always had an interest in, always kept an eye on. But when you're actually selling in it, you need to be in it because obviously it's a very different model to arbitrage. So we're obviously exposing ourselves to and hearing about a lot of what the Americans are doing in terms of these restock limits, how they're dealing with it from a private label point of view. And to be honest, the private labelers are all right because they've got the 3PLs, logistical companies that understand what's going on with Amazon, and they are able to store those goods for a price. Now, I have heard that a lot of 3PLs in America have been putting their prices up in line with supply and demand because they're aware, obviously, that their space is going to start getting more limited. So I don't know how I feel about that. 50% thinks of me, the price gouging a bit, but the other 50% thinks, well, they don't want to be a storage facility either. So they have got to charge accordingly for that. So, but it's going to be about drip feeding in stock for sure. This is going to have huge consequences, the restock limits. And, I think particularly with the type of selling that we do, the type of selling that Terry does as well, you're very much a bundler, going down that route. And I think that there are so many more reasons why this way of selling is going to be one of the prime ways to be able to sell this Q4 and moving forward, because it does exactly what Amazon wants in terms of controlling your own listing, being in control of your own brand, sending goods in, selling those goods. If they don't sell, then you don't send any more. You're not piling, goods into the system. It's not overwhelming the system. So I think in reality, there's going to be a lot of big changes. And actually, one thing I was going to ask people tonight is, how are your prep centers dealing with this at the moment? Terry, I think you use Prep Center, don't you?
I do, yeah. I've had Prep Center since last March, just before lockdown. Actually, it worked really well for me. So
yeah. So I mean, obviously, it's probably a bit of a difficult question for you because, like you've already said, your utilization limits are, restock limits, and your utilization is absolutely fine at the moment. But in terms of, I'd be interested to hear people's thoughts this evening about what their prep centers have said to them, because obviously we are really used to. Hey, Sad, appreciate the comments here, but please make sure that you're not soliciting any type of business or anything like that. You're more than welcome to stay, and we love constructive comments, but please, please, please don't ask for any type of business, because we will have to delete you, I'm afraid. But you're welcome to stay and answer any questions or anything like that whatsoever. But yeah, with regards to that, I'm interested to hear what people's comments are with how and what their prep centers have said about this, because UK prep centers are probably, I'm not going to say a bit behind the UK prep centers, but we are very much used to, especially on the arbitrage side of things, receiving goods and sending them in, receiving goods and sending them in. And so I'd be interested to hear what people's thoughts on the prep center have said about, what they've said kind of moving forward, if they've talked more about storage options, that type of thing. Don't know if you've had any of those conversations, Terry.
I have had conversations with my prep center, actually. They've been really very helpful, actually, with regards to this, quite forthcoming as well. So they've reached out to me and come up with like their basic their plan of action, I suppose, really, where they're looking to reduce costs for the sellers, because they understand that it's going to be very costly for us to keep our own stock at the prep center when we hadn't intended to do that. For me personally, although I have a higher limit for restock limit, I'm still left with about 2,000 or 3,000 units that was at the prep center or going to there that I would send in. So I'm actually about 2,000 units above my limit as well. So I've got to try and sell to try and push back out. But I'm trying to understand what you're I'm trying to read between the lines a little bit about what you think that a seller like myself should really be doing. Where I've got like units that I'm looking to ship in, where they're not all necessarily like private label type, bundles. Yeah. So a lot of them are OA as well. So I'm there thinking they probably will sell. That's the reason why I bought them in the first place. And I think that they won't be that competitive as well, because I don't like to have competitive listings. So I suppose if I just follow suit in what I'm already doing, then maybe that's going to be okay. I just don't know. It's just trying to learn as I go on.
Yeah, I think in reality, variety is the spice of life. I think that providing that you are keeping a well-stocked, oiled machine moving in terms of goods in and goods out, and you are not sending in more goods than you are selling, or certainly not a large proportion of what you're selling. I think that if most people can get to the point where they are managing what is going out and what is coming in, and there being probably a slight increase in what is coming in as opposed to going out, I think that that's a very good model to be able to follow. So if you sell 1,000 units this month and you send in 1,200, or if you send in possibly somewhere up as about 1,400, something like that, I think that will keep you in relatively good stead in Amazon's eye. If you sell 1,000 units a month and you're trying to send in 5,000 units, I don't think Amazon are going to take that kindly unless you are in control of that full listing. I mean, like I said, we're still only a month into this. We don't really 100% know what's going on. But I do believe sellers who can utilize all of the shipping options. We're hearing recently that Amazon will start to take into account seller fulfilled prime and fulfilled by merchant options. I haven't seen that myself personally with my own eyes, just something I've heard from a few other sellers. So that will go favorably in terms of restock limits, because you're showing that you're managing all levels of your business and you're willing to try different things. I don't know whatever way Amazon are going to look at it. So I think if you do have the opportunity to utilize the other shipping options, I think that is absolutely one of the best things that you can do, providing you have the margin in your product. And I think it's about finding a really good 3PL to work with. I think we are going to see the rise of the 3PL in the UK between now and Q4. I think traditional prep centres are going to be way of the past a little bit, and I think unless there's some sort of storage with multi-channel fulfillment for the different shipping options, and I think that's potentially what what a lot of prep centres, unless they're very, very niche prep centres, are going to have to look to convert to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, well, my prep centre is actually offering FBM, and they always have done as well. I've been able to send out FBM since the very beginning, and not just for Amazon, but for eBay or anything else that any other channels that I may be sending through as well. So, but for me personally, it's just been Amazon and eBay, and they've been really good with that, and I think they've reduced costs in that as well. So. So it's just really been a case of trying to make the products that I have at the prep centre available to sell. So instead of making them all FBM, I've got one eye on the future, thinking that some of these, well, the majority of this will actually make its way back in as FBA. Yeah. But we'll make 10 units of each one available for FBM. And one of my VAs, she's been doing a great job at just making them available at the prep centre, and we've made some sales over the weekend as well. So they've been going out today. I think we made almost 10 or something in the space of a weekend. So I'm happy with that as a start, and we'll see how sales develop. And it's good.
I honestly think if you have the ability, and this is for everybody watching, if you do have the ability to utilize fulfilled by merchant, and you want to do it, because there's a difference. Like we have the facility to do fulfilled by merchant, but Matt's not a huge fan, to be perfectly honest, of doing fulfilled by merchant. We've started doing eBay more recently, and he prefers the system of eBay as opposed to Amazon. And I think that when you've been an FBA seller for such a long period of time, it can be a bit of a bit of a drag to have to do FBM as well. But what I will say is, if you are in the position to do it, and you are just sat on stock, and that stock is not going anywhere whatsoever, have a look on Buybot Pro, check the margins, see if it works for you, because you might as well list that stock, and you might as well keep it going if you can do it. But please, if you've never done merchant fulfill before, please don't overwhelm yourself in doing it, because I know sometimes what can happen is they say, oh, fine, I'm just going to list, 30 items, but we know how powerful platform Amazon is. So before you know it, and especially over a weekend, you can have like 100 orders to have to fulfill. So if you're going to do it, make sure you do it sensibly. But if you have the option to be able to do it, then I think that's a really sensible option. And especially if you have a prep center that you can trust to do it as well. Because I've got to be honest, the other thing I would just add to that is, if you have a prep center and all of a sudden they're popping up saying, yeah, I can do FBM, yeah, no problems whatsoever, then I would be very cautious and do not throw all of your stock at that as well, because FBM is massively different to FBA. And I'd imagine that if a prep center hasn't done it before, then they could find themselves getting overwhelmed very, very quickly. And you guys don't want to be missing, order tracking details and, order defect rate and things like that. So at the moment, caution is the main thing, definitely. Right, let's have a quick look at some comments. I know Sean's been commenting like crazy. He says he only seems to be sending in stock that is fast selling and out of stock, which is crazy. Yeah, there's no rhyme or reason. If doing merchant, definitely get Royal Mail business account, 100%. Works out £2.40 a parcel, includes medium-sized parcels too. That's pretty competitive, to be honest.
Is that signed for?
Pardon?
Is that signed for? Because I won't send anything out unless it's signed for, because I just don't want the repercussions of anyone saying, I never got it. And then if you have something signed for, I just want that backing. Yeah,
just confirm that, Sean. I know that we have a Royal Mail account, and I do know that Matt is very, very similar in the sense that he won't sign anything unless it's signed for, especially on Amazon. It just gives you that real, confident, not signed for, but it's tracked.
Okay.
So, I'll have to ask Matt. Matt, if you are watching, what is the service we use and how much is it, if you could let us know? Sean also says Amazon is hard to figure out. Yesterday they said I could send over 9,000 units. Tonight it's changed, but managed to get some boxes done in time. Absolutely. So remember what I said, guys, from a couple of weeks ago. Just if you are in a position where you're overstocked, then make sure you look at your oldest stock back first, and work backwards from there. Don't be dumping stock that you're just sending in the last couple of days. If you're going to dump stock, at least try and do it, systematically and strategically. I think that's the best way to do it. Carolyn said, is there a weight limit? I think you must remain to fulfill by merchant. As far as I'm aware, then no. I know that they've just introduced is it big and bulky or bulky and heavy program as well?
I'm not sure what they called it.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what it's called.
Is it not oversized? They have like their oversized restock limits. I don't know if that's anything to do with the program that you're talking about, but I know that I've not really utilised my oversized product limits at all. I've probably got like 1,000 units I can send in, but I don't send anything big and bulky.
That's a really good point as well, because don't forget, obviously, the storage limits at the moment, the restock limits, do apply to standard sized inventory. So if you do have oversized limits as well, then you should at least have a minimum of 1,000 units to be able to send in for oversized goods as well. So think of those big swimming pools, guys. You should be able to send those in fine, no issues at all. And they're flying out at the moment. Definitely worth taking into account. Okay, a couple of people have confirmed. I think it was Simona said no point paying for signed as postmen to signing at the moment. So there we go, Terry. And yeah, Matt says we use RM Track 24. No need for signed at present due to Corona. No signatures are allowed. So or Track 48. So yeah, there we go.
Okay, I'll choose the cheaper option then. In that case, it costs me £4 each time.
Definitely, £2.40 sounds good to me. So let us know any comments as we go along. But I wanted to have Terry on tonight as well, because Terry's got a really great story to, his Amazon journey. So I want to find out a little bit more about that, about you, how you got started on Amazon, because obviously, I hope you don't mind me saying that you've kind of thrown around a couple of big figures that you want to aim for, this year for the next 12 months. You're hoping, you're certainly on that road to the 7 figures, and it will be good to hear how you got started, why you got started, and where it's gone from there, really.
Sure. So where should we start? Right at the beginning then? And,
right at the beginning. It's a very good place to start.
Okay. Well, if anyone's actually seen the interview that I had with Matt in the Secret Wealth Project, they'll know that I quit my job a couple of years ago. Well, it's actually more than that. It's probably like 4 years ago now, I think. something like 4 years ago, and I was working in a computing company where we were dealing with software for clients, and it wasn't really fulfilling me. I didn't really enjoy that path of career for me, but I'd done it for 4.5 years, so it was paying the bills. But so I left that with the intention to actually make loads and loads of money doing crypto, but that didn't work out quite like that at that time. So I had to try and find something else, and it took me about a year before I stumbled across Amazon, and it was really quite random. A conversation I had with a lady that used to work in the gym that I used to go to at the time, and she was telling me that her boss was actually doing a £0 to £100,000 challenge, where he's just trying to prove to somebody he had a conversation with, saying you don't need to have money in order to make money, and because he's quite a wealthy man as it is anyway, and he just wanted to prove the point that you could go from £0 to £100,000, and he created a YouTube channel for that, where he was doing like a weekly or 2 weekly updates, showing what he's bought, how he sold it, and a lot of that involved Amazon, and it involved a lot of car boot sales and things like this. And when I saw the methodology that he was using for that, I was really quite taken back. I was thinking, wow, this is doable, right? And when I saw the online arbitrage video that he'd done, I think the example he had was buying a book at TK Maxx that sells on Amazon for, I don't know, £20 more than what he bought it for. I was thinking, wow, is that really possible? You can do that? So yeah, it encouraged me to get started, and I created an Amazon account based on this, and I kind of modelled myself a little bit cringeworthily sort of after what he was doing, because I thought, well, if it's working for him, I don't really want to try and reinvent the wheel. I want to just try and do what I know somebody else is doing, and it's working. So that's really what got me started in Amazon, and that was just about 2 years ago now, really. I mean, I've just entered my 3rd year, because my first sale was in June 2019.
Yeah, and happy anniversary.
Thank you. Cheers. No, it's good to be here. Still, yeah. And it didn't take me too long before I stumbled across Secret Wealth Project products, basically. I suppose Buybot Pro and Profit Tips Pro and all the other things, trimmings that go with this, like the YouTube channels, yourself as well, Matt and Karen and Holly and everyone that's involved with it. So yeah, it was, and also not to mention Luke as well. I kind of stumbled across him. He was kind of a separate entity at the time, and I had his channel of Mr. Fast Track FBA and sorry, not Mr. Fast Track, Mr.
Merging 2 people there.
Yeah, it's because they're friends as well. So,
yeah. Well,
but
it's that's what I love about these communities, is that that technically, people like Thomas and obviously Luke and people like that as well, that in terms of this business, they should be rivals essentially. But what's really good about this community is that people do work together. People know that the online arbitrage world, or working for yourself and working from a desk at home, can be particularly lonely. And the fact that it just goes to prove that most people are here to help each other at the end of the day. Most people want to see other people winning. And I think that is, testament to a lot of people that work together within this community. I think it's, it's pretty obvious that, most people want the best for people, which is good.
Yeah, no, I agree more. Sorry?
You don't get that in a lot of other industries. You don't get like hairdressers popping in, to the hairdresser across the road and cutting their customers' hair for them. It just doesn't, it doesn't work like that, unfortunately. But there seems to be, with this community and the Amazon side of things, that's what really works. So when you discovered the communities, is that something that you felt? Was that something that you felt that, these guys are here to help? And did that encourage you on your journey as well?
I did, yeah. Actually, my first experience of that, I suppose, really was not just the Facebook groups that you get the help that you're looking for, but it was actually when I went to a networking event, and that happened at the beginning of 2020 in January the 4th, actually, I think. And there were people there talking. Luke was one of them, Thomas was another, and and talking about the products and strategies and things like this. And we had, I don't know, 30, 40 people stuck in Amanda Hill's room, and we were sort of just training, learning new strategies and things like this. And everyone's really keen just for people to develop, and that was really quite encouraging. As somebody that's just starting out, that was probably my 6th or 7th month in the actual business, and it was it's good to see. I left that with like a new sense of purpose and feeling of direction as well.
And do you know what? I cannot wait for networking events to come back into forth. And we've always said, I know Matt Webley is absolutely so keen to get back to networking events and to be able to set up, like summits and things like that we were doing before COVID. But, both him and I and the team and everyone have discussed that, we're not prepared to do it until obviously it's safe to do so. Obviously, I think it would be a bit irresponsible to arrange meetups and things like that. So, but I'm dying to do it because the sense of community that they give people, the level of enthusiasm and motivation that comes from being in a room with like-minded people, being able to discuss these kind of real up-to-date issues that we all have within this business. You can't beat anything like it, unfortunately, in terms of being there and discussing it and hearing different people's views at one go. The networking events is my absolutely favourite thing, and unfortunately we've not been able to do it for a couple of years. But little did we know after that event what was going to happen over the next 12 to 15 months, where the world literally went mad, of course.
Yeah, no. Well, I actually managed to meet the people from my prep centre by chance, really. Not that we just stumbled across each other in the street, but I ended up getting some of the products sent to my house that was supposed to be sent to the prep centre. So when it came here, I thought, well, what are my options, really? I don't really want to prep it all. So so I drove to...
What would have been the normal reaction, Terry?
I don't want to do prep. I've had enough. I got so much bad sciatica from it. It's just not good for me. So
I love the fact, the stubbornness. No, I'm not going to do it. And presumably, what, you drove it to the prep centre?
Oh yeah. It took me 2.5 hours, but it's over in Scunthorpe way. That kind of, is it Scunthorpe? Yeah. Brig is so Systemized Fulfillment. So that's them guys up there, Clapson's company. So that's where I went with it. But yeah, it was nice to just stop in and have a chat for like 10, 15 minutes or something, and just say, look, we can't wait for this to be over, so we can actually do this, for sit down, have a lunch, or do like, I don't know, an evening or something like that. And when we get the opportunity, we will, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Really can't wait for that to happen. It's something that is so beneficial to everybody. And yeah, literally can't wait for that to happen. And rest assured, guys, for everyone that's watching, we will do it as soon as it's humanly possible to be able to do it. So obviously we've hit January 2020. Hearing the murmurs about COVID, and you're doing this full time at this point. And what did you do next then? So because presumably what happened over the last 12 months contributed to the growth of your business, I would assume.
You're right. You did massively. Yeah. So I could briefly touched on, I was suffering really badly with sciatica, and it was quite a lot due to the actual prep. Not to mention,
fair enough. I won't take too much.
I was going on a step machine every morning for an hour as well, which didn't do me any good at all, I realised, and so I stopped doing that. But it was not good. So, but getting a prep sensor was such a big change for me. Mm-hmm. You can all of a sudden just click a few buttons, and then all of a sudden it's now in the fulfillment center, ready to be sold. And it's been like that ever since. There were some teething problems when you get involved with it, first of all, because it's a new methodology of how you're getting started on it. But once you learn the processes and develop that sort of working relationship, then there's no reason why it can't work wonders for you. And I was able to really scale up at that point. That's what I found was a big change for me. Is that a similar story for you then as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, we've always been involved with Easy Prep. So we've got, I've always had the luxury of having a prep center on hand and not doing it. I mean, I'm like you, Terry. I just laughed about you driving 2.5 hours to drive. But I don't know, in those circumstances, I may have prepped it myself, but I would have moaned all the way through it. Then I would have got all the boxes wrong, put all the labels on wrong. Then Matt would have come along and said, what have you done here? I'm not allowed to do any prep. He doesn't trust me to do any prep because, like, literally, there's been a couple of times where I was left in charge of doing our own prep and I put the wrong labels on and they got sent somewhere else and whatever, because it's one of those things. I hope no one thinks, oh, I don't care about what I do. It's nothing to do with that. It's to do with when I have very little interest in something, I find it hard to concentrate. And hopefully for those that know me from Elite Sellers, know you can tell what I am passionate about and, you know, what I do, you know, what my part of the business is, which is essentially the front end of the business as well. And sometimes what can happen, especially on the prep side of things, I lose interest and I'll be like, oh, yeah, that goes there. Because I just want to get it over with and get it done. So, yeah, I'm not allowed to do prep. I think like that. Too many mistakes. Or I have to be monitored. I have to be monitored while I do the prep. I'm not allowed to do it in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, I mean, we've always had the prep center on hand to be able to do it. But again, I will say that Matt is very much he's going to kill me from saying this. He struggles to let control a bit, so he's definitely a micro manager. So even if someone else is prepping our goods, he's always hovering around. He's always wanting to know, you know, where it's going. Yeah, definitely, for sure. Whereas I'm quite happy to press those buttons and say, there you go, off you go. You deal with it. Let someone else deal with that. I think it definitely helps with the process, the creative process of the side of the business that, you know, that I do, certainly. So you had for the first 6 months of your business, you had a Q4, and then immediately that preceded that is, you know, this COVID pandemic. Now, most people definitely within the first 12 months of their Amazon selling journey, sometimes they might not experience the power of Amazon and how it works, probably until they experience either their first full Q4 or something like that. So did you feel that you threw yourself into it a lot more because you know it was being able to be demonstrated to you that this really works a lot quicker than sometimes it would have been outside of that series of events?
So you're talking about the Q4 before COVID or after?
Yeah, so Q4 before, because most people, when they experience their first Q4, that's when they get a real taste of, oh, okay, yeah, okay, this works, but I feel I'm really underprepared for it. So it's really generally the next Q4 that people really get the opportunity to grow, because it's been demonstrated to them that it works. But at the same time, it's a bit like, oh, okay, but I don't want to go all in because I don't really know what I'm doing at this stage. Now, obviously, people get 9 months to prepare for that normally, but it literally happened 2 months later. So how did you handle that?
Yeah, well, I was pretty much with my back up against the wall right from the start, because I was out of work and, you know, I just didn't want to get back into a normal job, because it's not, I know that it's not really my style. My style is much more just owning my own business, and I've realised that now. This is so much more for me personally, that I've got the freedom to do what I want, yeah. Anyway, so Q4. So with regards to that, I didn't really have much of a plan about the first one. I just had stock that I bought from here, there, and everywhere. Loads of different ideas about whether or not I should be going to one shop here and trying to create a listing, which I actually done in the first couple of months. Created my own listings by taking pictures in the back garden, putting things on there, and probably breaking every rule in the book when it should be done. But no white background, putting my fake picnic in some sort of lunchbox and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I still had products that I could sell, and they sold. And it wasn't spectacular or anything like that for the Q4 in 2019. But 2020 was a different story. It was the results I'm getting right now were and not as good as the ones that I had. So the month of May and March and any month of this year has not been as good as what I had 6 or 7 months ago when it came to December 2020. They've been comparable, really, I suppose, with October and November. So based on that, I'm thinking I'm on the right path to have a really cracking Q4 2021, because I'm at that stage where I'm like maybe at October 2020 or November 2020, where things are heating up before the crescendo of December. But that's where I'm at right now. And, these are relatively not such popular months as far as I'm aware. I think August was where it goes pretty flat. I did experience maybe in May it was not so great as well, but I think there were some problems, which I think we're going to touch on in a minute, a little bit later, about why May wasn't so good for a lot of sellers on Amazon, where there's front-end search problems and things like that. But
yeah, lots of glitches, algorithm changes, why some sellers were experiencing some really big highs and a lot of sellers were experiencing some really big lows. So I think a bit like, what we suggest people to do. May traditionally is one of the quieter months, as is August. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. And I think what it does is Amazon really do take the opportunity to test and trial things during the down times, during the less busy times. And that's why they're kind of testing this new algorithm, change that they're making at the moment, which, I'm absolutely convinced it wasn't a glitch to do with the front end search. It was an algorithm change, which the longer it went on, the more we suspected that was the case. But just before I say about that, what I will say, which is interesting enough, is you know me, Terry, I do a lot of looking and delving into the data, the sales data, before we make decisions on buying products and things like that. I consider it to be one of my specialities, my specialisms, of whatever you want to call it, is understanding the data and, trying to predict and test and mitigate risk and all of these different types of things. And one thing that we absolutely have noticed, especially during the seasonal peaks and seasonal times like Easter, Mother's Day, we're going to be coming into Father's Day soon, which again, these are the type of occasions where we sell quite heavily because we sell a lot of seasonal products, a lot of gift-giving products in particular. So, this is when we experience our big peaks within our own business. And what's really interesting is looking at the data now compared to, you can't really compare the data to last year because it was a skewed year, obviously, to this time last year. So we tend to compare the data to, 2019. But what's really interesting and what is absolutely evident in all of the data that we're looking at is Amazon still continuing to grow, even without the pandemic and even with us coming out of it. So just as an example, if we look at something like a search phrase of, say, for instance, like Easter eggs or something like that, and seeing how many people were searching for that particular phrase on Amazon in 2019. Let's say, for instance, 10,000 people were searching for that particular phrase on UK platform. Then last year, obviously, because it was like a massive, increase over Easter during COVID, say, for instance, it doubled to like 20,000 or something like that. What's interesting is you would expect it to drop back down to what it was before, which was like, 10,000 or something like that. But what's really interesting is we are seeing that it's even higher than 2020 during the pandemic. And the reason for that is because Amazon is retaining all the customers and all the custom that it got during the COVID pandemic, which is absolute unequivocal proof that Amazon is continuing to grow, even though the pandemic is slowing down and we all think demand is stopping, but it's not. It's actually, it's continuing to grow, which is absolutely phenomenal for Amazon sellers.
It's wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I'd be very happy about that. Otherwise, we'll be out of business.
Yeah, and do you know what the thing is? The data doesn't lie. The data doesn't lie, because at the end of the day, we are still seeing what people are searching for, and there is still the level of demand, if not increased demand, because of all the, I mean, I can't wait to see the statistics that Amazon's going to bring out over the next 6 months about how the business has grown, in particular over the last 12 months. I think it's going to blow us all away in terms of how much it's grown, and you know, and how much it's going to continue to grow. Because, you know, I've said this for a really long time now. The last 12 months has changed us fundamentally in our shopping habits for good now. Too many people have been exposed to convenience. It was always a 50-50 market. 50% would always be driven by price. 50% would be driven by convenience. But I think convenience has taken over in the last 12 months. And once people are exposed to that, it's hard to go back.
Yeah, I know my family have completely adopted online shopping. They've got accounts at all the supermarkets. You know, there's different deliveries every sort of week. You know, that's just the normal thing now. And I can't see them really sort of thinking that they want to change back. Occasionally, they might want to go into the shop and see what's available. Maybe they're out of stock or something. But generally speaking, just happy to get stuff delivered. I think even probably 5-10 years time, still, you know, that, like you say, change in habits, shopping habits, have changed pretty much forever, I think. Absolutely. And actually, what you were saying about the Easter there as well, I had one of my biggest successes actually with Easter, because I planned ahead for it. So probably about 3 or 4 months in advance, I booked the Easter eggs or Easter products that I really wanted to get from the wholesalers, and had that stock available to me, created some bundles, and I saw sales just through the roof. I only had a couple of bundles, I think it was, but one day I had like 50 sales or something in this one product. I'm thinking, this is insane. It's like, how can it be so high?
Well, I know we talked a lot about it in Elite Sellers at the time, with obviously really taking, and, you know, never mind the buy box through here, and, you know, the post through the Secret Wealth Project as well. We talked about it a lot. Easter is, in my opinion, the most in-demand holiday where you can actually make some of the biggest money in terms of what is available versus the demand. Whereas if you think about it, Easter is quite a niche market in the sense that there's not really lots of different gifts that you give for Easter. It's mainly revolving around chocolate and confectionery, or, you know, Easter bonnets and Easter chicks and, you know, that type of thing. Whereas if you think about Christmas, if you think of the level of the difference in terms of what gifts can be given over the Christmas period, it's a lot more saturated in terms of variety. Whereas Easter's quite, you know, it's quite niche down. So it's going to be a very high level of demand that's tunneled or funneled through to the products that are available. And a lot of people still don't sell in Easter. They don't want to, because they don't think that they think eggs are going to break, or which they do, by the way, or, you know, people are not going to pay over the odds for, you know, 3 Easter eggs or something like that. But in reality, is the last 15 months we've all been spoiled by Amazon next day delivery, and we're all prepared to pay the price for it. Even I've started shopping on Amazon, which goes to say something. You know, not crazy. I mean, I think I've ordered like 10 things in the last year, but that was 10 things more than I ordered the year before. So, and I think a lot of people are definitely going to be in that position for sure. Phil says, sorry, he was running late. Evening. Oh, that's all right, Phil. We forgive you. Evening. And you know what? I've been talking to Phil today. He's been having some issues, you know, to do with this front end search, and he's got a bit of a weird one, to be perfectly honest. And I'm determined to figure it out what it is. I think I might have something which I'll message Phil about later to do with, you know, products not showing up and products not showing up under the right categories or right keyword searches or anything like that. It's still very early days at the moment, but it certainly would explain why for some people that people have had a really inconsistent May due to all the different testing with the new category allocations and the tweaking of this particular algorithm. Like I said, we know it now not to be a glitch. We know it to be an algorithm. So for anyone that's watching and anyone that's interested, it's going to affect us guys less than it's going to affect probably the private label folks. You're going to notice it more if you're a private label seller, purely because you probably have, 1, 2, 3, 4 products. Most private label product, average sellers don't have more than a dozen products or something like that. So it's very easy to keep an eye on what's selling and what's not selling. Whereas, the average arbitrage seller probably has 300 products. So it's going to be more difficult to keep an eye on what's selling and what's not selling. So that's why it's probably going to affect private label sellers more, because they have less variety of stock. But what it essentially is Amazon is a big search engine. How customers find the products is through one of two ways. They type in what they're looking for on Amazon, and either they will pick a product that they are being advertised to through sponsored search, Amazon PPC, or they will pick something that comes up in organic searching, which is the order of the products that would normally appear during that front end search, what the customer has typed into Amazon. But that's changed over the last probably 3 or 4 weeks. Amazon's been tweaking the algorithm, and it looks like now what it's to do with, it looks like Amazon has reallocated products into different categories that they shouldn't be in. Now, we don't know why it's happened, but it looks like it's happened. So what that actually means is that products have not been showing up where they're supposed to have been showing up. Now, as we understand it, it is a problem that can be fixed. You just need to, and I'm going to write a post about this probably over the next couple of days, because it's still very new, and I don't 100%. I've looked myself and I have seen evidence of it, but I don't want to go writing a post about something or making a video about something and then it turns out it's not right, obviously, or something like that. So just a bit more testing, and there should be a way that people can allocate, identify whether or not their products have been put into the wrong categories, and there should be a way that they can come out and change them. So that's the short version of the story, which is, for me, that's pretty short.
I'm itching to know what it is. I really, really want to know.
Phil's product? Well, Phil says, I've told 20 of that particular item this evening, but nobody can find it on the app or Amazon. The ASIN link is broken. It makes no sense here. It is a real head scratcher, I've got to be honest, Phil. Well, Phil's situation is he has a product, and I know many of you have experienced this before. The product has disappeared off of the front end search. You can't find it anywhere. You can't type it in with the DP search. You can't type it in. The only place that I actually found the product, evidence that the product actually existed, was through Helium 10. That's the only place where I've been able to find the product actually does exist. Otherwise, I would think, Phil was telling me porkies. But it does exist, and the only place that I found this particular product, and it says that this product is live in Phil's inventory. The product is saying it's live, but it cannot be found anywhere, this particular product. But it's a seasonal product and it's selling, which is really super, super odd. So I think it might have been categorized in the wrong category. So I'm going to double check with Phil, and if that's the case, then it will be interesting to see if this does correct finding this particular product. But I know this has happened to quite a few people in the past, because the item doesn't go into stranded, it just stays in your inventory. You just can't find it anywhere. Very weird. Very weird indeed.
I wonder if it's done him a favour. I wonder if it's actually working to benefit the seller then, in that case. If we sold 20, maybe that's more than we would have sold if they hadn't done that.
Hard to tell, without giving too much away. It's a seasonal product. I'm not going to share what it is, Phil, obviously, or anything. It's a seasonal product, and I suspect it was selling very well before this, but I think there was a period of time where it didn't sell, and then all of a sudden it just started selling again. It's very weird, and like I said, I'm at the last option with this particular thing. And if this doesn't work, I've got no idea. And I hate being stumped on Amazon. I hate not knowing why something, why something doesn't do what it's supposed to do. So we'll give this one a bit of a go, and we'll find out whether it's down to a recategorization, as in it's been attributed the wrong, subcategory or search function or something like that. Not particularly technical person. I understand the where and the why, but not necessarily the how. So we'll double test with this product and check. But what's really interesting is it's maintaining its rankings, even though the product doesn't exist. So somebody's finding it somewhere. So I can only attribute this to the fact that it has been recategorized in the wrong category. And unless you are typing in something absolutely very specific, otherwise it wouldn't be able to be sold. People wouldn't be able to find it.
Yeah, so, well, you could find out the actual search term in Helium 10 that people are actually searching for, and then maybe that's how you find it.
Well, it was interesting enough. That's where I went to last night, and I tried at least 30 to 40 different search terms and nothing. But I think it has to do with because it's in the wrong category, and until that's corrected, it won't show on a physical search. Well, it's certainly not showing to us anyway, but it is obviously showing to a wider Amazon audience. So I don't know. It's very strange, but we will get to the end for sure. We're coming up to the hour again. It always goes so quickly. But just going back to you, Terry, obviously with everything that's been going on with Amazon this year in terms of, losing the European markets, the restock limits and everything like that. I love the fact that you are so confident about where you want to go, how you want to get there. So tell us about, what plans you've got in place for the rest of the year to ensure that you do your best to hit that 7 figures, certainly by the end of Q4, which you're definitely on track to do.
I hope so. Yeah, let's hope so. So right now I've got quite a bit of selling to do because April and May for me were really big buying months. I spent much more than I ever have. Much more money than I've got as well. But so too much. So I've got too much stock right now. I need to sell it, and it is selling. It's going down pretty well, but I can't send anything in right now. So FBM for me is going to be a big thing for me. I need to make sure that we're selling a lot through the Prep Center, selling FBA on Amazon as well, and then so I see really the next 3 months is just going to be pretty much a load of selling for me, and that gives me time to plan ahead for my unique bundles as well, which I've been following your training, and I'm really excited to actually get started on them. I've got a couple of ideas in the bank already. I'm looking to get 10 unique bundles done by the end of the year. That's my goal, to have that. So I think that's quite achievable. My 2 BAs, I want to give them a big shout out as well. They're absolute amazing, generation.
Wasn't one of your BAs I told off earlier, was it?
I don't think so. I'm not sure. I couldn't see the name that came up there as well, but if it is, then
sorry.
But yeah, they're absolutely brilliant as well. So they know how to do so much stuff now. I've been able to pass my knowledge on to them. They swim with it as well. It's really great, and it's just a really great team. All 3 of us. So maybe at some point be able to add another person to that as well. I'd like to, but I see us, all 3 of us, to actually create unique bundles together. They have the skills to be doing that, and so between us, there's no reason why we can't do that. And I think that's probably the right sort of direction I need to move up to the next level. So there's pretty much the first big level change for me was when I got a prep center. The next one was when I got a VA, and the next one after that was when I got a second VA. But the next one after that, I think, is when I go to unique bundles, and I'm sort of moving further in towards the sort of private label type of thing. So yeah, so I really want to hit Q4 with multiple unique bundles and just see how they sell, because I know what can happen when it came to Easter, and if I see any similarity between the sales for Easter and what I do for Christmas, then it's going to be phenomenal. It's going to be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's very similar, but it's over a longer period of time that you experience it with unique bundles. So what it tends to be is it really does depend the type of products that you're selling for, of course. But it tends to be that last, month before Christmas, before the last posting dates, where you've seen some of the figures that I've shared over Christmas, to do with the unique bundles that we sell over the seasonal period and things like that. And you're talking thousands upon thousands of a day for 2 or 3 products at the end of the day. So the opportunity is absolutely massive, and it definitely is the type of thing that can take you to the next level, and especially for this year as well in particular. And the reason I say in this year in particular is because of everything else that's going on to do with the restock limits. If you don't get your house in order, and I'm not saying this to you, Terry, I'm saying this to everyone that's watching or everyone that will watch this video, then you're going to have, a pretty poor Q4 if you do not understand what Amazon wants with regards to the restock limits. Also, there is going to be a massive increase in pricing in terms of general products on Amazon, just to do with the cost of shipping. That is now, we were talking increased 5 times a few weeks ago. Now we're seeing evidence that it's gone up over 7 times in terms of the cost of shipping from the Far East. So products that would have ordinarily have been sold out of Far East, out of China and things like that, may not be able to be sold this year. So gaps are definitely going to open up in the market for what we can make for unique bundles, source our goods locally, which is, the premise of our model, obviously, is to think outside the box and not doing it the same way the private labelers do it, sourcing locally and that type of thing. And I think with this Christmas in particular, I think the knock-on effect of what we've just discussed and talked about having the fundamentals of how we are shopping and the embodiment of the type of bundles that we do and the type of bundles that I teach, where they're very convenient and, all of these different types of elements. I think it's just one of those kind of happy mediums that is just ticking every single box and lining it up for people that really do get involved in this level of selling on Amazon to be able to knock it out the park during Q4. It's like the stars are aligning for what we do, essentially. And they've always been very good for Q4 anyway. But I think with everything else that's going on at the moment, if you're not selling bundles this year, then you're going to be missing out. It's as simple as that. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my main things I really want to try and focus on as well is actually get rid of the aged products that I have. So we've got loads of stuff that's just been in stock for like half a year or more or something like that. So I'm really looking to try and get rid of them, get the new stuff in, and just keep that flow happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the most important things to do for it. Again, yourself, anyone else that's watching at the moment, get rid of the dead wood. If it has been sat around for more than 3 months at the moment, Amazon does not want it. There comes a time in this business. It's not just about buying. It's about when to sell, what to sell. And sometimes it's not necessarily about that and waiting for a product price to recover. It's about knowing when to sell that product if you're hanging on when you shouldn't be hanging on. That's a really important factor that I had with someone we chat with Nat last week. Went through some products, and this particular person was waiting for products for a price to recover when this person was only 20p off the buy box, and they had 6 or 7 in stock, but people above him had like 200 in stock, whereas the 20p off the buy box, get rid of it. There's no point. It's going to take 2 months to get back to that level. Dump it, get rid of it, and get rid of it now. And that's a really important factor in this business as well. It's not just about buying and selling. It's about knowing when to buy and when to sell. And sometimes you have to sell for less than you originally anticipated, but it will help recover cash flow and hopefully, reinvest. You can reinvest that back into your business at, a better time for your business. That's the way I see it anyway. So constant checking, guys. Set and forget is a little bit of a thing of the past at the moment, unfortunately, with everything the changes that Amazon are making.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've basically repriced some of the old dead wood, as you call it, earlier today, and selling that for a loss. Because it just has to go. Got to try and recoup some of that capital back, and just being charged storage fees for it. I mean, my storage fees for the last month just shocked me. I mean, so happy with the profit I made yesterday, and then I thought, well, where did it go? I looked, I was thinking, what's happened? And it's all been eaten up by storage fees, and so yeah, just trying to get them down as low as possible so we can make the profit out of the products you're selling.
And I think that's also been an element of Amazon and understanding a little bit what I said at the very start of this. And, when I had the headmistress hat on, is that, I think Amazon want people to take this business a little bit more seriously and understand that this is a business. There are decisions that have to be made every day in terms of what Terry's just been talking about. Do I hang on and sit it out, or do I pay the storage fees? Do I get rid of the stock and recover it and put that cash injection back into my business at a time when, it's good to not be sat on, it's better to be sat on liquid cash than it is to be sat on tangible assets? All these different types of things. And I've said it in the past before. I think a lot of people with the Amazon, they don't seem to think it's a real business, but it is, guys. It's it's what goes on your profit and loss at the end of the year. It is a real business, and it has to be treated as a real business. And I think Amazon have made it really easy for people over the last couple of years. And I think they're just holding their hands up and say, we're not going to do that anymore. You guys have got to be responsible. You've got to manage your inventory effectively, and you've got to take responsibility for that. And I think that's what Amazon are doing for sure.
So what are they doing then? Have they stopped making fulfillment centers? Because I thought that they were still making them. I don't know. Somebody mentioned it the other day. I thought, well, if they're still making fulfillment centers, why are they stopping us from sending stuff in? Maybe it's only a temporary measure until they've built them or something.
Because I don't think Amazon, for once, I really don't think you can blame Amazon for this, because they just could not have anticipated what was going to happen over the last 12 months. I think they will continue to build fulfillment centers, but like the example I said about with looking at the figures between 2019, people would expect the search volume and the demand and the people looking for products on Amazon to actually be lower than it was in 2020. In fact, it's the opposite. It's higher. Amazon are growing, and they're still growing massively. And they've grown a hell of a lot quicker than they thought they were going to go. So even if you're Amazon or not, you can't build 40,000, or 400,000 square foot warehouses overnight. You need to fill them with staff. You need to train staff. You need to acquire the site. You need to get it built. All of these different types of things. And I think they will continue to build fulfillment centers. They are definitely building fulfillment centers in Ireland, which is going to be, good for the people of Ireland. They're going to have that opportunity to be able to sell into the European market and also the UK. I think that's going to work really well with them. But I just don't think they can keep up with demand, and they have to make this decisive action with the restock limits, and that's what they've done, because they know come Q4 they won't be able to cope. They just will not be able to cope with the amount of goods. Like I said, I don't know anyone that's not talking about it at the moment, and everybody I've heard talking about it is of exactly the same opinion, that Amazon's full. That's what it comes down to, and they just can't continue to go on as they have been. So that's what they want people to take responsibility for sure.
Yeah, good points.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to, unfortunately. Can't
argue with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what I will say though is, with everything that's going on with Amazon at the moment, the opportunity is still there and it's still phenomenal. And I really do think that people that get it right this year are going to really get it right. I'm absolutely certain, Terry, that you are going to be one of them for sure. So thank you for sharing your journey and your thoughts with us today. We really Really appreciate it. Dan says, all doom and gloom tonight. No, not at all, Dan. We're just saying it's definitely we're on the positive. I think the opportunity on Amazon is as good a now as it's ever been. Even within the COVID pandemic, I think that get it right, and people are going to have an absolutely phenomenal year this year, and especially going into Q4, and it's going to sort out the week in the chat, like I said, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've got to basically think outside the box, because if you do things the same as everybody else, then you're going to end up with the same results as everybody else. And it seems like everyone's being affected by this, but not everyone is being affected by this. The majority are massively being affected by it, I think, with the restock limits. But for the ones that are thinking outside the box and doing things slightly differently to the majority, to the herd, basically, they don't, like yourself, like maybe myself as well, we're not as affected as everybody else when it comes to restock limits. So, if you're doing things a little bit differently, then maybe you'll get different results.
Absolutely. Well, Terry, it's been an absolute pleasure to share the evening with you. I hope you've cooled down a bit now.
I have, yeah. It's not right now. It's getting dark actually as well, but
yeah. Oh no, still blue skies down in Bournemouth at the moment. Yeah, but no, it's been an absolute pleasure. Really, thank you for joining me this evening. As you all know, I'm here pretty much every Tuesday at 7 o'clock. Next week it will be Luke. Last week I said it was Luke, and I even told Luke it was, he was on this week, and I got confused with my dates. So thank you, Terry. But next week it will be Luke, and he will be here to talk about some general Amazon news and everything that's going on. And hopefully we'll have a bit more clarity about those, the front end search issues and everything like that. Fingers crossed that it's all been resolved or stabilized a little bit by then anyway. Terry, as I said, it's been an absolute pleasure. We wish you luck on your journey for the rest of the year. We wish you massive success, and we look forward to hearing from you. Hopefully you'll come back maybe sometime in Q4 and give us an update on how you're doing.
Would love to. Yeah, thanks very much for having me on. I really appreciate it, and a chance to actually talk about this. I'm always watching the show, and if it's not this, it's the SA. So it's great to finally meet you as well, face to face.
Yeah, virtually face to face. Absolutely. But thanks for joining us, guys. Thanks for watching us. We really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next week. Have a great week, everyone. Take care. Bye.